There is a storm, Jed. Vicious storm, Jed.
Yeah.
Vicious, ferocious, Jed. It is here. It is shaking. When you hear people repeating what we used to hear 2 decades ago, Moi baba Moi, baba Moi nakupenda, hakuna mahali unaenda. You remember those who used to praise and worship? Most of them are dead. We buried them. They are just lucky that we didn't take them 8 feet down. We would have buried them and properly cemented their graves. That liwe liwalo, come May, whatever it happens, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter the will of the people that William Ruto will get a second term. They are not Kisia Defense Forces. They are Kenya Defense Forces. When time comes,
Yes.
they will look at Kenya. They will not look at Philip Kisia. They will look at Kenya. Not Kisia Defense Force. They look at Kenya and say, oh no, here's where we belong. We don't belong this side. We already have too many churches, Mr. President. We don't need more churches. We have too many of them. We need classrooms. We should not have our children learning under trees. We need hospitals. We need our doctors to be paid properly. What gives him the idea that he can do as he wishes? This is not his personal house. This is not Sogoi. I think the president needs to stop being simplistic.
Is there a vacuum post Raila?
Play one clip where Ruto has spoken truthfully.
Great to see you. Hello there and welcome to Herman Manyora's YouTube channel. This is Philip Kisia Unscripted coming to you on this particular Good Friday. Easter season is here, but we are still going to have these conversations in this platform that we say we do hope will help our political leaders in making better policy decisions and informed political moves. I'm here with Philip Kisia. Philip Kisia is a leadership and governance expert. He has been the last town clerk here in Nairobi, former KICC CEO, doing a lot for this country, even as the executive director of Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party. Great to see you. How are you doing? It's Easter.
It is Easter, man. Resurrection.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a rebirth.
Rebirth.
Yes.
What are you
are
thinking?
resurrecting. We were dead. So, first of all, let me wish all our viewers, Kenyans, the Gen Z, millennials, alphas, and even the oldies, forget about the sins that you've committed. You need to resurrect, because it's Easter. And for the Gen Zs, alphas, and millennials, please find in your space, find in your hearts to forgive the boomers and those who came after us for the sins that we've committed. It is Easter. Please forgive us for those sins. You know, Jesus did forgive all of us, and he died for us. And I'm just praying and hoping that that you people, our children, our grandchildren, will find favor and will find in a space to really forgive us for the sins that we forget, we've committed. Now, you know, and you see what a day, Jed, Easter. And I know that in the last 2-3 years now, that really, if there's any moment that Kenyans would have wished to resurrect, is now, not yesterday. It is today. Okay? We know that there are families who have suffered. We know there are people who are being oppressed by the current regime. But we're hoping that this Easter, that if nothing else, going forward, they will show love, compassion. And we, on the other side, who have been oppressed, will find in our hearts to forgive them for the sins they have committed. You know, this liberation that we're enjoying, the second liberation, blood was spilled, people died, and we're here enjoying it. So we're hoping that the third liberation will come without any bloodshed. It will just be a liberation, done in a very smooth manner, on or before 2027. That Kenya, for once and for all, shall be liberated through the third liberation.
Let's get to your highlights for this week. What has caught your eye?
Yes, now again, I think what a moment. Look for that video, James Orengo talking, I think it was in Siaya or Homa Bay.
Siaya.
I think it was in Siaya.
Yeah.
Look for that video.
Let us build a society which is based on the Constitution and the rule of law. We can say many things. And me, I cannot be praise singing because we fought for a democratic constitution where people should talk, where people should talk, where people should talk. I was in parliament when people used to tell Moi that Moi hakuna mahali utaenda, you will be in power until the day you want to go. They told Moi, and I was in parliament at that time, there are only a few of us who said we cannot have this system of government. And Raila was the head at that time when Jaramogi died, that we do not want that system of government. So I am asking you Kenyans, this constitution that we fought for, it is a very difficult document to keep. And if you keep on, song praising all the time, we will not have a country.
Governor James Orengo says we should not be praise singers. Our constitution is what we should look at.
Jed, I started off by saying that we fought for liberation. That this constitution that we're enjoying currently came through sweat and blood. What a moment. What a Easter. To remember those who fought for this particular space. And James Orengo would not have said what he said at any other given time. This was the right time for James Orengo to remind Kenyans that our constitution builds society, that our constitution protects the society, that there is no point, and that one we buried katika kaburi la sahau. Praise and worship teams were buried in August 2010. So there is no point resurrecting praise and worship choirs. Those died in August 2010. And therefore, Kenyans, and especially my brothers and sisters from Luo Nyanza, you are my neighbors, you are my brothers, you are my sisters, you are my friends. You have duty to protect this constitution, because if there's anybody who was on the forefront for fighting this constitution, is none other than Raila Amolo Odinga.
Yeah.
And therefore you are duty bound to protect it. Okay? And James said that there is need for us to speak the truth. And that we must protect our institutions for prosperity. There is no other thing that we need to protect, just the institutions that we have. So and I agree with James Orengo, when you hear people repeating what we used to hear 2 decades ago, Moi, Baba Moi, Baba Moi nakupenda, hakuna mahali unaenda. You remember those who used to praise and worship. Most of them are dead. We buried them. They are just lucky that we didn't take them 8 feet down. We would have buried them and properly cemented their graves. So we are seeing a resurrection of those people coming back in the same uniform to praise and worship. Washindwe, hiyo ni tabia mbaya. And I can tell you, Jed, I cry and I fear for this country. That if we do not protect our institution, the judiciary, DCI, NIS, Parliament, even the executive, the military, if we do not protect those institutions, this country will go to the dogs.
Let me just ask you, we've seen reports of Orengo Raila enmity brewing. What lesson should Kenyans learn from James Orengo speaking the way he did in front of Raila and President William Ruto?
Honesty. Just be honest. And when you are speaking to the leadership, Because that is what the Constitution requires you to do, to protect the Constitution. Because if there's any document other than the Bible and the Quran that is truthful, is the Constitution. So the Constitution requires that you protect it. The Constitution requires that you be truthful. You speak the truth to the powers that be. Right. So there's nothing else that you should do. Let's look at the second highlight, Jed. Right. Jed, the second highlight, and this one I found very interesting, is, and probably you want to look for that a short clip, where Kenyans are replaying what my good friend, His Excellency, the President, said 2-3 years ago about him not being mad. I'm not a madman. I am not a madman. I am not a madman.
You're going there.
Look for it.
I am not a madman. I'm not a madman. I know what I'm saying.
A few moments later.
That the first signs of mental illness is denying that you are a madman.
Kalonzo Musyoka tells us about signs of a madman.
You know,
you're the one who was
you're talking about somebody I really profoundly respect.
Yes.
But anyway, very interesting.
Yes.
That the president wants us to believe him, at least at that time, and maybe even going forward now. But the things that are happening during his leadership, during his tenure, leave us with no doubt to confirm that there's something indeed that is wrong. Because before he took over from Uhuru Kenyatta, he made promises. He will not weaponize institutions that are supposed to work independently. DCI, anti-corruption, parliament, that will give them autonomy. But what are we seeing right now? All those institutions are being weaponized for the benefit of those in power. Something he said he will stop. He talked about River Yala. He said that there will be no more extrajudicial killings. But what has happened? In the last 3 years, we have seen people dying, children dying, children being tear-gassed, monos being tear-gassed, monos, standard Form 1, Form 2, being tear-gassed. Okay? He said he'll wipe out tribalism. What are we seeing, my brother, Jed? What are we seeing? Tribalism at its best. He said he will stop corruption when he comes in. In fact, there's a clip where he's saying that there will be no money to steal. Actually, at least that statement is accurate. Yeah. There will be because there's no money anyway. All the money has gone to white projects where people are just looting this country, and therefore, indeed, there's no money in government, there's no money circulating, there's no money in people's pockets. So that statement was really right. But when you look at Kalonzo Musyoka's response, it's profound. He says, wait a minute, there's something that we need to confirm here. Where and when does mental illness begin? When you start doubting yourself, immediately start doubting yourself. Yeah. There's a problem. There's a problem, my friend. Immediately start doubting yourself. Yes. You should never doubt yourself. But the day you start doubting yourself, you are confirming something. You are actually confirming something. What Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka said, there's a problem. Indeed, there's a problem, Jed. But that is for Kenyans to think about and to reflect. The third one, which is very fast and furious. I don't know whether you watched Citizen or Kinanjugush, my friend Barack Muluka, Cleo, and this boy from State House. What do you call him?
Not a boy, Dennis.
Dennis, he's a young man, he's a boy. I have children his age. These are boys. Okay. Even you are my boy.
Okay.
I have children your age.
Okay. Come on. Okay, let's continue.
So, you see, this young man came with the handbook, saying according to the handbook, these are the rules. But, what I found interesting is in Jugush's, view on that handbook and what is currently happening. And I'm sure that is the reflection of the youth, the Gen Z. There's a deeper meaning that he was given. That we, particularly the boomers and so on and so forth, we seem to have two mouths. One mouth with two compartments. One compartment talking about things that seem to be accurate. Another compartment talking about total lies. So there's one mouth with two compartments. They are not compatible. And when you have such a people in leadership, it is actually extremely dangerous. The other thing that Njugush and the young people are saying is that how can you even trust you? Because when you're double-mouthed, when you have one mouth with two compartments, how can you trust you? How can you believe you? So I think, and I'm happy that the young man, Dennis Itumbi, was there. He really made an effort to speak about what the government is attempting to do. But I hope he learned lessons, which he picked. And I must also appreciate the fact that he, in some cases, he said, yes, here I agree with you. Here. So I'm hoping that he did encourage his boss, my friend, President William Samoei Ruto, to watch the entire conversation from start to end. I know it needs a lot of, because I think it went beyond 2 hours. People say that our conversation is long, but that was quite long, but it was very interesting.
Your reflections for the week.
Look at the reflections for the week.
Yes.
The first one, which is extremely sad, Jed, is Kenyans being actually not being depicted, because it's a reality that Kenyans are so low, that Kenyans, we have gone so low to the point that we are selling our organs, your body parts. You know, Jed, by the time you are removing your body part, you can only do it to save another life, a dear life. Maybe your brother needs, a kidney. And because you have two and they're all functioning and they're compatible, you can donate one or to another human being to save life. And you do it for free. You don't ask for cash. But here we have our young people especially not donating to save lives, but donating for survival. When you see a nation, when you see a community getting to that level, you are the lowest. And if I were president at this time, and my people are actually removing their organs, selling organs, I'll be a very worried man, because it will go down history as a person who provided leadership at a time when people got so desperate that they started selling their body parts. I think this is a moment for President William Ruto to take a deep reflection and ask himself very many questions. But most importantly, Jed, I ask myself, we have a DCI heavily funded. We have an NIS heavily funded. Instead of being involved in stupid little things that don't make sense, these small little things, stupid, bure kabisa manenos, these are the things that they should flag out. This is where we need them to take, this is where they should arrest these things before they happen. Things are happening under their noses. Then you have a ministry. You ask yourself, where were these people when these things were happening? Even the reports were done. No action is taken. But I'm happy that the current Minister for Health has promised Kenya that he will take very decisive action. And I have no reason not to believe Aden Duale. You can say he's not a medical doctor, but sometimes you need people in positions of leadership who are decisive, who can take action, who can listen to people and do the right thing. So I'm hoping, my friend Aden, you're listening and you'll make the right decision and you'll take action. Not in another 12 months, but in another few weeks, that action will be taken. We want to see those people arraigned in court. The last one, Jed.
All right.
The General Ogola, CDF, the late Ogola, died on 18th of April, which is, I think, this week. It took the government 1 year to release a report. You saw when the president of Iran died in a similar circumstance, aircraft. The report was released in less than 100 days. Released. A president of a republic, and a report is released. And people accepted. Yet, yes, this report appears to be accurate. But in our case, and you know I've trained an aviator here.
Yes.
I have an aviator here. Trained in the best university in the world in aviation. I have not even asked him for his opinion because I don't think I need. Because when I read through that report and you said that there was a malfunction, engine malfunction, you ask yourself, this equipment was bought from United States of America. They have been using it. Where was the problem? Is it maintenance? Is it they were sold junks? What could be the problem? And if indeed it is because of an engine that failed, how can it fail on a CDF? Because an aircraft, an equipment that is carrying your CDF, Chief of Defense Forces, should be able to carry a president.
Yeah.
Yes, in an emergency situation. I know the president is allocated his own aircrafts and equipment, but in a time of emergency, it should be there, either to provide cover for the head of state or even to airlift him when there's need. Now you are saying that we had something in form of a chopper that we spent billions of shillings and dollars to purchase, and then it brought down our, may God rest the good general in eternal peace. But I do agree with His Excellency Kalonzo Musyoka that we probably need an independent investigation team to investigate and write us report so that we can put, as Kenyans, we can put this matter to closure.
Our conversation for today is about Gachagua, Rigathi Gachagua's chilling revelations that his life is in danger. In a letter addressed to IG Kanja and copied to the president, Gachagua says that there is reason for him to believe that the attacks that have been happening in his occasions are attacks meant to kill him. If that can happen to a former deputy president, what does that mean for Kenyans who are ordinary Kenyans? My conversation with Philip Kisia is all about that. Are our security agencies actually being used, weaponized against civilians, weaponized against Kenyans, and what does that mean for us? Kisia, you listened to Rigathi Gachagua and what he actually says and want to know, what does this reveal about the state of political tolerance, starting with that political tolerance here in the country?
Now, Jed, you know, even before I dive into context, and we get into the program, main program.
Yes.
Because to answer that question, I want you to look for that clip, the interview given by Kate Waruguru. I think it was very powerful. Just run the first 2 minutes or so.
Meets you with all white teeth and smiles at you. It's not the mouth and the teeth you meet in the evening or behind closed door offices. Behind closed door offices is a very vicious man, very vengeful. And a man who will keep looking at you, scheming on how he will execute judgment on a community, on a person. A man who holds grudges for years. And a man who once said and is quoted, and I hope you get this for our viewers as you broadcast this. President William Ruto have a curated image of a patriot, a man who loves people, a man who appears before women and our children and innocent Kenyans who are not politically exposed as a man of God. He has been able to cure his image to look like a man of God. It's
Kate Waruguru. They are talking about the president saying he has two faces, one during the day for women, children, and voters, and the other in the evening. We're starting with that one.
You know, I think Kate talks about a curated image. Curated ni ile face imepangwa pangwa,
Yeah.
My blocks imepangwa pangwa.
Yeah.
It's curated.
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah.
It's not the real face. Yeah? It is a form of some face. And, you know, when I listen to that clip, Kate seems to be talking about somebody with a double image. I think there's one for the day and another one for the night. Okay? So the question is, who is this man? Who is this man, William Ruto? Who is he? Who is he?
You call him your friend. Who is he?
The question Kenyans are asking. He's my friend.
Who is
and
he?
I keep on telling you, and I'll tell Kenya, I cannot deny he's my friend.
You know, comments, people don't like it when you say that.
No, it doesn't matter.
Eh.
You see, where I come from, they say that even if your mother is lame, I'm not saying William is lame, you cannot run away from that situation. So even William, we may hate him, which I'm sure is likely the case. But you see, one day he'll be out of office, and I'll look for him and we'll drink tea and mandazi. Okay? My job as a friend is to tell him the truth, to tell him I'm misbehaving, to tell him that people are not telling the truth. That is my job. But anyway, Kate seems to paint a very bad picture of the president, saying he's vicious, he's vengeful, he's a schemer, he's a pretender, pretends to love women and children, but he's the opposite. He's a dictator. He is not a man of God. That's what Kate seems to be suggesting. Okay? But be as it may, that is Kate's view of my friend William, and I'm sure many other Kenyans have a view of the president, my good friend. But when a former deputy president of the republic, and there was a time my friend William used to praise the deputy president, he would say very good things about Rigathi. Say, oh, my mtu wa mkono wangu huyu, the man who is helping me to do the job, how can somebody who's very good, change in a matter of a year and a half and become a very bad man? Okay? Do you have a poor sense of judgment that he's a good man in 18 months or so, and then becomes a very bad man, incompetent, and so on and so forth? But what really we should be concerned about is the statement made by the former deputy president, where he is alleging that his life is in danger. You know, a deputy president is not an ordinary Kenyan. He's the second in command. And when you issue such a statement, let us not take it lightly, because we saw what happened to TG, Tom J. Mboya. We saw what happened to Pinto Gauda. We saw what happened to J.M. Kariuki. We saw what happened to Ouko. Those are things that should never be repeated in this country. It is already painful to lose brilliant brains like the ones I've mentioned. It is painful. We lost them at a very tender age. These are people who should have shaped the destiny of this country, but we lost them because of politics. So I would urge the security forces to take this matter lightly, not to take this matter lightly, to investigate and take appropriate action, or at least give us a report, an assurance that Rigachi's concern is misplaced. They need to give us that assurance. But they cannot afford to sweep it under the carpet. They need to issue a statement.
Gachagua should have gone and written a statement.
A statement, if something happens to him, will not be talked about statements. I must remind the AG, if something happened to Rigathi today, not even related to what he's saying, even something happened, touch wood, something happened to him. Maybe he coughed or something happened. He choked, something happened. Kenyans will just say, you see, they are the ones who caused it. So they must preempt, they must investigate, they must release a report to the Kenyans and say, this concern, this fear is misguided, is misplaced, and we can assure you that the former deputy president is secure. Okay? Because touch wood, my friend, touch wood. Touch wood. Touch wood, my friend.
Anything happens.
Touch wood, my friend, and something happens. Touch wood. Touch wood. I fear for this country. Touch wood. I was there to see what happened when Tom Mboya died. I was there. I was young, but I saw. And now with social media, oh my God.
Talk to me about political tolerance, and maybe you can answer that with, are we sliding back to that dangerous times, dangerous culture of political intimidation? Is this what we're looking at?
You see, Jed, we are sliding into an era of intolerance, which is extremely dangerous. Dangerous in this day and age, that you cannot tolerate a different view, that you cannot tolerate criticism, that you cannot tolerate divergent views, that you want people to stick or agree with what you say in total. That cannot happen in this day and age. Okay? This intolerance, you know, is getting into now getting the other people to start dissenting. So that you have one side of Kenya and the other side of Kenya. Instead of having a united nation, a united country, you are dividing this country into two. Those who support one side and those who are on the other side. It is a dangerous space to be. This is a red flag. Yeah, it is not good for Kenyans. It is not even good for investors. And this now falls squarely into what Malala was calling the echoes of
War.
Echoes of war. If we don't nab it now, if we don't calm the situation, if we do not remind Kenyans that we are one nation, we have one flag, we have one goal, we have the same objectives, that Kenya is greater than any other person, I'm afraid we are sliding into a very dangerous corner. And sooner than later, we may not have a country.
You have talked about our security agencies and you've said they should not take it lightly, but what actionable steps do you want to see post this letter, apart from the IG saying this guy should just write a statement?
You see, our security agencies have been respected for their professionalism. You know, they have been, I mean, regionally and even internationally, particularly our discipline forces, even our public service. These are people who have been respected all over, globally. Okay? So there's only one thing they can continue doing. They should be reminded that the guy at the top is transit. Is transit. He may be there for 3, 4, 5 years, finish his term. God forbid he gets another one, but I don't see him getting another term. He goes home. But the public service remains. The discipline forces remain. Their job is not to protect an individual. The discipline forces, they don't work for an individual. The public service does not work for the individual. That is why it is called the public service. That's why it's called Kenya Defence Forces. It is not called Kisia Defence Forces. You get me?
Yes.
Is it Kisia Defence Forces?
No.
It's actually KDF,
Yes.
Kisia Defence Forces.
Yes, I've got what you've done there. I've seen what you've done there. Okay, it's not.
It is Kenya Defence Forces.
Yes.
They are defending all of us as Kenyans. Okay?
Yeah.
So, Jed, we expect the security agencies, the discipline forces to operate transparently, to move swiftly, to work professionally, and to regain public confidence. They need to affirm to the public that they are independent, that they have no sides, that they are working for the Kenyan people, that they have no business working for an individual. It is not Kisia Defence Forces. It is Kenya Defence Forces. They must work towards preserving democracy. This democracy that we fought for, this democracy that made them independent, so that we have a public service commission, we have parliamentary service commission, judicial service commission, ethics and anti-corruption commission, Kenya police service, judiciary. They are independent, and they must continue working professionally and independently, and protect the constitution that they swore to when they took over office. That is what we expect of them.
You know, you said-
Short of that,
Yeah.
Short of that, I can tell you. Short of that, you know, Jed, I keep on telling you that we are 57 million Kenyans. That even the discipline forces, they are able to operate because the environment is conducive. But if the environment became hostile and inconducive, even the discipline forces will have nowhere to hide. Yes.
56 versus...
Hey, boss. How many? A few thousand. Police, a few thousand. Public service, a few, I don't know, I'm told a few thousand. All of them put together in one pot, they can't get to 1 million. They can't get to 1 million. And on the other side, there are 56 million people. So they are only able to operate efficiently, effectively, professionally, because they have the goodwill of the Kenyan people. Minus the goodwill.
Yeah.
Minus the goodwill. Let me give you a simple example, Jed. Today, because this government does not obey most of the court orders, particularly the ones which go against their wishes. Today, if the public said, according to the Constitution, and I have a copy here, they said the only cabinet secretaries who are allowed to break traffic rules are foreign affairs, defense, treasury, and I think there's a third one, fourth one, president and deputy, and CJ and speaker. The rest of you, mutapanga line. And you know, and these small little fellows I see who have been given flags, even they want to break the rules. They don't know, even when they come to anywhere, any space, they want to remind us that they are, we can tell them to go to hell. You know, Kagame the other day, I think it was 2 weeks ago, said, no, go to hell. Kenya can also say, you know what, go to hell. Go to hell. Na utawapeleka wapi?
You're talking about that and you're saying touch wood, and I'm thinking about political stability of this country before 2027. Are we looking at a full-blown crisis? Because even George Natembe is also speaking the same language, saying, if you want to kill me, kill me.
Jed, look for that video. This senator of Nandi, is called Cherargei. Just look for it. I think it's 1 minute or 54 seconds. Play it out.
Kisia hakuna rais amewahi enda taa moja Kenya. Hatutakubali kufunga virago Nairobi kuja reserve. Hapana. Ama mulitutuma sisi tuende Nairobi turudi nyumbani. Si tu lazima tuamalize 10 years. Maiona rais anaenda one time. Hata wakati Kibaki alipata shida, si alifanya ukarabati mpaka akarudi kwa kiti. Mimi nataka niwahakikishie, ukienda coast, uende northeastern, uende mpaka hapa western Luo Nyanza na hapa Rift Valley, hii yote asubuhi na mapema, before hata 90 minutes ishe, William Ruto atakuwa amekuwa re-elected with over 90% of votes cast in the Republic of Kenya. Ukiona hawa kama akina Karua, akina Kalonzo, hawa ni watu wanaweza shindana na William Ruto. Hata ukiketi tu nyumbani upime tu, wanaweza shinda William Ruto. Kwanza hawatakubaliana candidate, hawatakubaliana chama.
Cherargei is asking a very simple question. How can we lose power? No president has stayed in power for less than 5 years. They're going to be back, hata kama watakarabati.
You know, Jed, that is now dangerous talk. That is where problems begin. Because power is given by the people. The people can take away power even tomorrow. You just need to read Article 1, 2, and 3. They give it to you, they donate it, they can take it away. Therefore, for this young senator to start making reference to Kibaki never used force to stay in power. It is his record, it is his ability, although we had a problem in 2007, but he was able to negotiate, and that's why we have a country now today. If he was hard-headed, like some of the people I see today, we would not have a country called Kenya today. But I was there, my friend, when these things were happening. I was there. I was in the mix. I knew what was happening. And when I write a book, there are 2 chapters on what happened in 2007. Okay? We're just lucky that we had somebody like Kibaki at State House, and God favors Kenya. Otherwise, this country would have blown into pieces. So for this young senator, I don't know how he was. Maybe he was still in diapers. If he really put on diapers. Yeah. If he was there at that time, he would not be making the statements he's making today. He is even. I think he's in illusions. He has some illusions that President Ruto has support of Western Province, where I come from. I don't know who he's talking to. He talks of Luo Nyanza, maybe, but I doubt. He talks of Eastern. He talks about Coast. He talks about Northeastern. Even Rift Valley, I think is a problem. And, I think the kicks of a dying horse look like what this Senate is talking about. Have you seen a dog that's about to, a horse that's about to die? Have you seen the kicks?
No.
Maybe one day you'll be privileged to see how a dying horse how a dying horse dies. Okay, they kick. They are last kicks, but a few minutes later, the horse has to die, and the Muzungus will. You see, we are getting into a very terrible space. 2027 is about around the corner. And we must be very careful with the statements we make. We must not suggesting that liwe liwalo, come May, whatever it happens, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter the will of the people that William Ruto will get a second term. What these characters should be doing is to encourage the president to perform in these 2 years. We may move him from grade D to grade C minus, and maybe then he stands a chance. But for them to thump chest, for them to to boast that they are going to do anything, that nothing will happen, and they forget that this country is not. We are not in 2007. We are not even in 2013. That this country, the demographic has completely changed. The people we were dealing with 15 years ago, some of them are dead, some of them are too old. That the guys we have right now on the block are guys that will fight to the end. Therefore, my advice to this current regime is to stop chest thumping and focus on doing the job. It is only the job that will secure a second term. It is not your chest thumping. It is not your bravados. It is not your maringo mingi. And those characters you think are with you, they are not Kisia Defense Forces. They are Kenya Defense Forces. When time comes,
yes,
they will look at Kenya. They will not look at Philip Kisia. They will look at Kenya. Not Kisia Defense Force. They look at Kenya and say, oh no, here's where we belong. We don't belong this side.
Finally, what does this reveal about the president? This conversation of threats, assassination claims, is he unable to deal with dissenting voices? Is this the case?
The president has lost grip, in my view. Because there is even dissent, quiet dissent within his political party. Just that people don't talk. People, in my view, are afraid to talk. But those who are bolted out are now telling us what is happening inside his administration. Those who are bolted out. We have Muturi, we have Rigathi, and there are many others who are coming. I can tell you, Jed, because we are Kenyans and we are consulting and we are talking to people. I can tell you, in the next 12 months, the people who are going to leave this government, tons and loads of people are going to leave. And they are going to leave them so naked, they will not believe what they are seeing. They will not believe what they will be hearing. It will not be James and any Justin Muturi and Rigathi. It will be those 2, 3, 4 times 1,000 people who are in this administration who will now be talking. Our democracy is very fragile, and I urge all of us to be careful in our utterances, to speak with caution, to speak with maturity, and to remember that Kenya indeed is greater than you and me. It is greater than Kenya, Kisia Defense Forces.
Thanks for tuning into that conversation. Kisia says Kenya is greater than Kisia Defense Forces. But he says KDF should remember their role NIS together with the Inspector General of Police. Just as always, this Easter final remarks. We're going to relax and remember Christ died for us.
Yes. And you see, Jed, I want to urge if you look at this You know, I was a young man that time.
Yes.
It was this after 2003 elections.
Yes.
And these are corporate captains from private sector.
Yeah.
Most of them are still with us. Maybe one or two went to meet the creator.
Yeah.
And these are religious leaders. We have Kirwa here. We have this man from Mombasa, the minister who died, and Mburungaru, and you know, and my friend from Meru, your friend.
Yes.
You can see him?
Yes, yes.
Murungaru.
Kiraitu.
Yeah. I want to encourage the corporate captains, the religious leaders to step in. This is the time that they must step in to save this great country, Kenya, so that those careless statements that are being made by a few of us can be nabbed.
Yeah.
But in closing, Jed, look for that video, PLO. I think it's very, because they talk about Easter, they talk about, church and religious spaces. Look for that video, PLO's video.
Prayers without action is superstition. Today, you see in many African countries, factories are being closed and they are being converted into church buildings. You see many critical institutions which ought to run being converted into church houses where no productivity is there. There is no production at all. It's just consumption and the collection of tithes and offerings. And the things that we ought to do for ourselves, we are praying and fasting. How can you pray and fast and expect to compete? The Chinese are praying to their God. The Japanese, the Koreans, the others, but they are engaged in research. Because research is about God. If God says that he has created you in his own image and has given you a brain to think, how then do you think that God is going to supply you with manna and quail?
Well, that is Patrick Lumumba. He says we need industries and we need research. Maombi bado ni sawa, but we need.
You know, quite relevant to Easter, Pasaka.
Yes.
That, you know, it is not about, praying is important. But God has given you everything, including time to pray, but time to invest in R&D. Because I keep on hearing people say, oh, nitajenga mabarabara, nitajenga bomas, alafu nikataka kujenga kanisa. We already have too many churches, Mr. President. We don't need more churches. We have too many of them. We need classrooms. We should not have our children learning under trees. We need hospitals. We need our doctors to be paid properly. We need police, military. We need civil servants and public servants to be paid properly. We need infrastructure to be built. Churches can come, but I think in my view, we already have enough. Focus on areas that can increase productivity so that this country can become great and greater. Finally, Jed,
yes,
there is a storm, Jed. Vicious storm, Jed.
Yeah.
Vicious, ferocious, Jed. It is here. It is shaking this country called Kenya. Okay? And some of us are in small little boats. It is time to move from those small little boats into the big ship so that we can sail to safety. Failure to join in the big ship that is going to bring change that we desire in this country. Those who remain in small little boats are going to die. Please join the ship, the loyal opposition.
Thanks for tuning in to this conversation with Philip Kisia. I didn't know we were going to end at that particular point, but yes, indeed. Join the loyal opposition if you want to survive the storm. That is Philip Kisia for you. Thanks for tuning in. Have yourself a lovely rest of your day.
What gives him the idea that he can do as he wishes? This is not his personal house. This is not for going. I think the president needs to stop being simplistic.
Is there a vacuum post Raila?
Play one clip where Ruto has spoken truthfully.